All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. I am Franz Pei with Cyber Skyline. Today with me, I have Eddie Miro. He is one of our new challenge creators. And if you are joining this live stream, it means that you are here for the NCL Fall 2024 team game walkthrough. So we kind of asked people in the Discord if they had any questions, challenges that they wanted us to go over. And it looks like we had quite a few. We have a limited amount of time today, but Eddie is going to take us through some of the highlights. And I'll be kind of around in the chat trying to help out as I can. But with that, Eddie, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Franz. Just wanted to introduce myself to the Cyber Skyline and NCL family out there. I've been a big fan of the NCL competition for a long time. And when I transitioned from IT into cybersecurity, I actually signed up to a community college, just so I could do NCL one season. And I ended up being a community college teacher and coaching NCL there for a few years. So I'm really happy to be part of the team here at Cyber Skyline and get to build challenges. And I know a lot of you in the chat probably love me so much for some of the devious tasks that I set, but the schedule or the agenda that we're going to look at today is going to be pretty basic. I'm going to go through some of the OSINT challenges, and I built all the OSINT challenges for the team game. So I think they're really cool, and I'm really familiar with them, and that's one of my stronger domains in any CTF. So I'm going to cover those. I'm also going to cover Jefferson because, as you know from Discord, that was a very popular challenge. And shout out to Jen for building that. I actually think it's a pretty cool challenge, and people were pretty salty about it. So I'd love to go through it. And then, like Franz said, we put a poll in the Discord, and we were looking for feedback from the community to see what challenges. A common theme was some of the web app challenges. So we're going to go through Flag Dispenser, which is the medium web app challenge. And then at the end, Franz is going to go through Book, which is the hard challenge. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Franz and other members of the team are keeping an eye on that, as you can see, and they'll be able to answer any specific questions that I don't notice or that I don't cover in the live stream today. Also, I just want to refer you back to Discord, where we have the write-up sections for all of the challenges there. So people put their methodologies, how they solve the challenges, what tools they use. There aren't any answers there specifically, but there's enough information that if we don't cover a challenge that you wanted to see, there's a really good chance that we'll see that there. Franz, anything else that I should discuss before I just go ahead and jump into some of the challenges I wanted to show?
Well, go ahead. I just wanted to put the link out there for the Discord for anyone who didn't have it. Once you join the Discord, you can go and find the channel that Eddie is talking about. And there's a lot of activity there. So hopefully you can get your answers there for anything we don't cover here today.
For sure. It's a great community. So okay, so here we are. I'm going to go into the open source intelligence section. I'm going to skip past the rules of conduct. Hopefully everyone got 100% accuracy on the rules of conduct. Okay, Van Life was one of the ones that I built. The backstory for this is the very first talk that I ever did at a hacker conference ever in my life was at a conference called NORCON. It was on vehicle-based surveillance. I tried to interview the local FBI office. I rented a thermal imaging camera to try to detect people in surveillance vans. So I've always had this fascination with surveillance vans, and you can actually buy used surveillance vehicles online. So I knew that when I did this VIN challenge that I absolutely wanted to include some of these just because I thought it was fun. So yeah, pretty basic methodology here. You can look up all of these using a tool like this site right here, which is the NHTSA. Of course, it's broken. The NHTSA Vindicator. If I go back here and take one of these guys, throw it in here, you can see the other ones there. Pretty basic. If you Google these VIN numbers, you'll find usually this GovDeals site here. This is where you find the last known location for this one, Margate City. So pretty basic methodology there, pretty easy level challenge. Let me see if there's anyone in chat here. Cool. All right, so that one was pretty basic. Let's move on to airport. Some people, I remember, had some difficulties with this one. The first one was the fact that there was kind of some crossover in some of the challenges. And you'll see when we get to Jefferson later that it wasn't strictly like a cryptography challenge. There was a little bit of open source intelligence in there as well. This one as well. I wanted to make the title of the image something interesting here. So if you copy this string and take it into like a hash identifier tool, you can see that this is a SHA-1 hash. So you take it into something like CrackStation. Make sure it knows that you're not a robot.
We are a robot.
I know. And then, if my internet will, so the result here, the SHA-1 hash resolves to port target. So just a little bit of lore there that I wanted to put into the challenge and just kind of make it a little bit more fun. Obviously, this is kind of like your GeoGuessr sort of challenge. If you search for port and white dome, some basic Google foo there, you'll find that this is in Long Beach. That white dome is now a cruise ship terminal, but it used to house the Spruce Goose. And I had to kind of update this during the challenge because I put what is the common name for the object that used to be stored, which really kind of like was too broad, and there were too many answers that technically qualified for that. So we switched it to nickname, which then we only had to cover a few different variations on Spruce Goose or the Hercules and a few other different like H4. And then the airport code there for that is the LGB, which is Long Beach. And I saw some people in Discord also mention that they live really close by there. So if you happen to live in Southern California, this one probably wasn't too bad. But Googling some of the keywords from the image made it fairly simple to find. All right. Let's check out nostalgia. Okay, and if you haven't figured this out by now, I like to build challenges that I have like personal connections to. Time Hunter RPG is a really fun game, actually. And if you solved this challenge, you'll know that this is a who is lookup challenge. It's pretty basic to do, right? If you, let's see, if you throw timehunter.com here and this ICANN lookup, all the information you need is right here. So the creation in UTC right here, the registrant. Now, the city is Reykjavik, which is in Iceland. That was pretty simple. The email, this really threw a lot of people off. And I noticed that a lot of people were getting typos, and they just, and the hard part was the withheld actually has two H's in it, withheld. And a lot of people put it in with one H, and we're just like, I'm putting it in exactly right. And I'm not getting, it's like, it was very frustrating. The one thing I didn't anticipate was people going into the historical Whois records and actually finding the email address and the contact information for the person that built this site. If it was a little bit harder level of a challenge, that would have actually been a really great idea. And the fact that so many people were kind of overthinking the challenge actually made it a little bit more difficult. So yeah, this was a pretty simple challenge, pretty straightforward, just Whois lookup, and all the information you need is right there. But anyways, this was created in 2002. That is when I first joined the IT field. I was working for a company called Earthlink, doing dial-up tech support. and I loved playing this game. And this guy just keeps these games online, like in perpetuity. And yeah, very, very cool. Oops. Okay, so that one should have been fairly easy for everyone. Definitely put in the notes that you didn't have to sign up or like beat the game to get a flag, though that would have been really cool. Yeah, I see your question, Jeffrey. I actually didn't reach out to the owner, and I was talking to Franz earlier, and we were wondering if maybe they saw like a huge influx of traffic. I hope so, because it's a cool site, and you know. Hey Zach, how's it going, man? It's great to see you here. All right, the hard OSINT challenge was called Insider Threat. Pretty basic challenge. I provided you these images, and you have to identify which one is not the real person. It ended up being more difficult than I thought. A lot of people were looking on LinkedIn for fake profiles built by us, but that's not what I did at all. I actually generated a fake person using "this person does not exist." And I just kind of randomly selected different people from my own LinkedIn connections that I just thought just had very generic photos. The one that's fake is this guy. The way you solve this is just by doing your standard reverse image search, and the one that doesn't have any results is this guy because he does not exist. All right, now that finishes up open source intelligence. I had a lot of fun building those challenges and putting some of my own personal history and lore into it. Yeah, the weird caller for sure. And I definitely was really like worried about this one because these are like real people, and I didn't want anyone to reach out. Hopefully, none of you guys did that. Please. All right, so I'm going to go to cryptography. This was a very divisive challenge. Anyone here? Yeah, this one was actually really tough. And the hard part was you have to know which tool to use and exactly how to use it. And when I was preparing to do this live stream, I had the write up, so I like knew how this was built, and it was still kind of difficult. And you know. All right, so what I'm going to do is I have the site here that you use for this challenge. It's jeffersondisk.kuts.ch. The way you do this, and I have my key here on the side, which I'm just taking from the challenge here. So we have the key, we have the starting position of the disks right here. And just let me know in the chat if it's too small, and I can make this bigger. All right, so I'm going to go into settings first. This is the part that threw a lot of people off. The hard part here is making sure that we have enough disks, which is 12, and also the key here. Let me just verify that I have the correct one, and I do. So once that's all set up correctly, you go back to the wheel, and then you take the message, and this is kind of time consuming. I'll go ahead and do it for you. IV RV. And I picked this one not only because a lot of people were complaining about it and I just want to troll you guys back, but also I love historical cryptography and I love like classic codes and ciphers. It's one of my favorite things. So I actually thought this was a really cool challenge that Jen built. So definitely wanted to show it off a little bit. It's a really neat tool. And if you do research on Jefferson disks, there are some beautiful historical artifacts. Hold on, I need to do this. See? So yeah, I love that era of history. All right, so we have this set up. We have all our settings correct. So if we did this correctly, we iterate through here, and I think, where's it at?
You just passed it.
Oh, I did. No, that's
Also
the one
back,
that I.
right?
It should circle back. I probably put the, let's see here. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Okay, just reset on me. Let's see if Jen's in the chat yelling at me right now. Pop out that left column. Okay. Yeah, okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah, this looks a little faster.
So much smarter this way. See, Jen is really smart. Okay, let me just copy this from my notes. Right. Cool. Now, okay. All right, there we go, right there. Blackmailing. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, very, very tough challenge for a lot of folks. So, yeah. Okay. Let me take a look at the chat to see if I'm missing Enigma machine next. There have been challenges that use the Enigma machine. Decode was too easy. I was reading through the methodologies threads, and some people, one thing that you have to think about, especially if you're new to CTFs, is that there may be like a way that the author of the challenge designed it to be solved, but that doesn't mean that's the only way. And this challenge was no exception to that. And I saw people writing scripts in Python to actually decode this, and it was actually really impressive. So shout out to everyone who came up with like really creative ways of solving different challenges. Anyone use a toilet paper roll? Yeah. Okay. We do also, is anyone in the chat playing the scavenger hunt game?
I think there's a little delay in this stream of the chat, so hopefully someone is.
If they are, we actually...
Oh, there we go.
I see some yeses. So we have a secret code that's going to be displayed on the screen any moment now. And there it is. So there it is, Cyber Chase, time chow with a little bit of lead speak in there. Take a screenshot quickly. We'll also, I think it's going to get put in the chat also. So we'll spend a few seconds on this. While that's on screen, I'm just going to take a look here and see if there's any other challenges that I might want to show, because I kind of went through the first section fairly quickly. Although the challenges that we have to show next are a little bit harder to get through. But we'll give everyone just a few seconds here. There's the submission form just posted in the chat. Also, the code is there. So definitely join into the Cyber Chase scavenger hunt. It's really cool stuff that we're doing. Great. All right. I think
the URL might be a little bit long to type out. Hopefully, if you're in the chat, you can click on the link.
Sounds good. All right. Let's move on to some of the harder challenges that were requested. This one is called Flag Dispenser. Let me just go in here. This was one of the most highly requested challenges. So yeah, bug report recently came in stating the session system of our flag dispenser is broken. Can you reproduce it? Also, please read this when you're doing a CTF. There were more than a few people brute forcing the platform, which was challenging, and Connor was bashing people with his hammer. So let's be cool. Anyways, so when I solved this challenge, the session really was a big clue for me. So I popped this out into a separate browser window here. The first thing I always do is push F12, right? And you can see I'm already here looking at the cookies because session definitely makes me think about cookies, right? That's one of the common ways to maintain session information. I'm not like a huge web app hacker, so that's why Franz is doing the hard one next. But this is the way I solved this one, and I don't know if this is the intended way, but I took this value, which looks like a base 64 encoded string here. I'll put it in CyberChef, which is what everyone does, and we have something interesting here. Okay, so we have user, date, and then we have this date, and then we have a checksum. Now, I'm just going to take that off here. I don't want to spend too much time going through the intricacies, though. If Franz wants to comment at any point, he can jump in. But I know what we need to do here, which is to change this user to an admin. And then the way this checksum is generated is by taking the date and the user and then generating an MD5 hash from those. And the way you can verify what we have here by using our hash identifier. So MD5, you can't crack it, but that's okay. So we kind of know what we need to do here. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to actually put this here in the end because I'm going to have to provide this value that I generate back to the web app. So I know that it's going to have to go back to base 64. So I'm just going to put this here for now. Now what I need to do is generate this section here, which is the checksum. So I know this is going to be going to MD5. The best way to do this is to just select this date here. And I just want to look at my notes to make sure I'm not screwing this up. Okay. So I'm going to put the date here. And then, so the checksum is just the date plus the username. So I'm going to put the username there. That's going to generate this MD5 sum. I'm going to copy this here into this, which I'm sending back to base 64. Copy this, go here, provide that, press enter, and I didn't do something right. Let me double check myself. Okay.
Eddie, I think you have to change the user because you're okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. You're absolutely right. Okay, so yes, the user is defined as admin, date is defined as the date, the checksum is admin plus the date, so I have to define that here as well. Thank you, Franz. Now, if I do this correctly, there we go. So yeah, that was a fairly accessible web app challenge. Just really playing around in CyberChef and yeah, getting through to that. So Franz, are you ready to talk about the book challenge?
Sure. Yeah. Let me get my screen share up because I have got everything pulled up here.
And now I can read through the chat and see if there's any questions that I know the answer to. And our team is also in there. Just want to remind everyone to check out Discord, look through the walkthrough methodologies.
All right. So this was the hard level web application challenge. Like Eddie, first thing I'm going to do, pop this open in another tab, and then open up DevTools here. And I'm going to kind of like speed up the normal recon process, but hopefully you have a pretty decent intuition. You see like a register option here, and you can put in some username. Anytime you see a web application and there's some sort of input field, that is usually somewhere where you should draw your attention, because that always appears to be an area for exploiting. And if we go back here, we don't get a whole lot of guidance. So we will just go through our generic reconnaissance. And so the very first thing I would do, go to your network tab here and make sure you have the check mark for preserve log, because if sometimes there's like a page refresh or page navigation, all of the past requests and everything will get wiped from that log. And so just having that preserved log there will help you a little bit while you are doing your reconnaissance. And so I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to create just like a new user, just random characters, and I'm going to hit register. So user created successfully. There looks like there was a page refresh there. We now have this new user over here. So two things to look at. The first thing I would normally look at would be to go and look at the JavaScript, the source code on the front end for this page itself, and see if it's doing anything weird there. There isn't anything weird there. So just to save some time, I'm going to jump forward. And what we want to look for is that request that went to the server to actually create that new user. So I could do a little bit of filtering here. If I select fetch /XHR, this is going to show me all of the different AJAX requests that went to the server. And there's only one. That's the create over here. And then we can see this is the request. These are the headers and the response. And here are the headers from the request. Because I'm using Chrome and I have certain settings enabled, there's a lot of extra headers that have been added, which you really don't need. So as I'm going to go through this, I'm going to drop a lot of these headers because they're not important. And then if we look at the payload, this looks like it is a JSON object. So we have a user, and the user has a name and it has a role, and that's set to user. So this is the object that we want to modify. And then looks like there's no response data. So it was just successful, and that was that. Now, to help with the messing around with the endpoint here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and of course the screen share hides that. So I'm going to have to use trust me, there's totally a drop down menu that showed up that the screen share does not feel like showing. Let me fix it. I can go and do a full screen share here.
Don't try to trick us, Franz.
No trickery here. All right. I swear, if you right click on this, you can see a drop down menu, and then go to copy, and you have all these different options in how to copy the request. I would copy as curl bash, because I want to use a Linux terminal to mess around with this. And so I have copied it, and now I'm going to switch over my screen share to a Linux terminal. Okay, so I've got my terminal over here, and if I paste in that request, there it is. If I hit enter, you can see that it says user created successfully, reloading. And this is the full request that was made when I earlier hit that button to create that new user. So as I said, there's all these extra headers here which are not necessary, and these become a distraction. So what I've done is I created a new request here, and sorry, it's this one. This new request here, where I am going to go and just delete a lot of these headers. So we don't need these extra headers. To refer, we don't need. Origin's not necessary. Pragma is not necessary. This user agent, sometimes user agent can be something that you want to mess with. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add this -i option over here. If you see that, the -i option in curl shows you all the response headers as well. So now if I run this, I will see the response headers where it says 200 OK. We got an Nginx server here, the content length, all of this. So we have a working request where we can see all the response headers, and it's a little bit less busy than what we had before. Now I'm just going to selectively just go and start deleting things. So, does cache control, is that required? No. Is connection required? No. So delete those headers. This is still working. Go back. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to actually get this to break. And we want to see the behavior for when it breaks. So if I get rid of accept, does that still run? Yep, it still runs. Accept language, that still runs. And if I delete content type, all right, now we get an error. So I basically just removed all the headers one at a time until I got an error. And when you get an error, that's something to investigate. And so I can see here the response we get back, 415 unsupported media type. So it was expecting that there was some sort of content type header. So if I go here, this was, if I paste in my original request here, you can see the original content type is set to application JSON. And I would suggest just trying to figure out, what other content types might be supported. So if I do this text plain content type over here, and I run this, I can see that I still keep getting the same error, unsupported media type. So that's not going to work. Now, some intuition behind this is that the regular correct request was using application JSON, and this is a JSON object over here. The intuition would be, well, what other types of formats are commonly used to transfer data? And in addition to JSON, a common one is going to be XML. And so let's try content type XML. And at this point, I'm intentionally trying to generate errors. I'm trying to generate different errors, right? Like trying to look at the different error messages and see what can I glean in terms of like, how is the server reacting to my behavior here? And so if I run this with the original JSON payload, but I change the content type to XML, you can see now I no longer get a 415 unsupported media type error. I now get a 400 bad request error. So the behavior has changed. So that's another clue that we want to investigate a little bit further. And then, of course, the error message also changes. So originally, we got this generic like error page with all this HTML in here, and it explicitly says in here unsupported content type. The fact that we went from quote unquote pretty, but like the actual like a normal error response to like no HTML is just like the raw error like that. That's also another clue that we're going in the right direction. And you can see here that the error message is invalid XML format, non-white space before first tag. So now it's upset at us because the data that we gave it, it can't recognize XML format, which would imply that XML is indeed a supported type and our payload is incorrect, which is true because if you go and I look at the file again, I said it was XML, but I didn't change the data that we sent. It's still this JSON data. So next step here, let's try to create a request using valid XML. And we're going to try to set ourselves as admin. So the original request, there was a name in the role. The name was test or user or whatever I typed in. And the role was automatically filled by the browser and it put in the user role. So we're going to try and see what happens if we make this role admin. And if I run this, it will give me another error. So we get a 400 bad request and it says creating admin accounts is not allowed. So there is some filtering going on. To save time, I didn't show myself going through this process of creating the user role with the JSON normally, but this filtering is happening both with the JSON requests and with the XML requests. However, the XML request here gives us another possibility in terms of, are there ways that we can exploit the parsing of the XML? So again, what we want to be doing is we want to be trying to generate errors that will cause this application to fail and give us some more information. So if admin is being filtered here, what I could do, if you go and you Google for different ways to exploit XML or different ways to exploit like the parsing or with the injects, there is something that, what is this called? I got to go in my search history now. It is called the XML. I'm sure someone in chat is going to beat me to the punch and pull it up before I can find it here. It is called it's the built-in entities in XML. The character reference, numeric character reference. I can probably switch my screen share here to the Wikipedia page I have on that. Eddie, were you going to add something?
No, I was just I was just gonna fill in the dead air if you were searching for it. So
I got it.
I was just prepared, but you were good.
There. So what this will allow us to do is, instead of just typing in the role admin, we can effectively use this special character sequence, and we can actually provide the hexadecimal or the decimal ASCII code for that character, and use that as a way to, when this gets parsed out, that ASCII code will be converted into the actual character. So if we get the ASCII code for the A in admin, you could also theoretically do it for any other letter in the word admin. You could do it on the D, the I, or the M, but we're going to do A because that's the first letter. Then what we can do is we can bypass the sanitization check, because what happens is that the data is first sanitized and then it is parsed. So if we bypass the sanitization, then the parsing will go through successfully. And the sanitization is, in this case, it's just doing a straight string comparison and checking to see if the role is set to admin. And it's not doing anything checking for these special character reference sequences. So if I go back to my terminal here, what I'm going to first do is generate an error. So if I put in an ampersand here, I want to see what happens. And we now get this invalid character it's giving it specifically line 3, column 15. So, if I didn't have the ampersand there, if I had just like, user here without admin, I pass the sanitization check, it's successful, right? So the fact that when I now add the ampersand in here and I'm getting an error saying that the format is invalid, to me, that indicates that this ampersand is actually being parsed as part of the XML rather than as a string. And so there's another clue here that we're going in the right direction. And what I want to do, I actually have this in another file here. So if I go and I do this ampersand, so ampersand AMP semicolon, that's going to add in an ampersand as well. And then this this pound 97 over here. This is going to be like this sequence here is going to be the replacement for the A in the admin. And so if I now run this, it now says user created successfully reloading. Now I've been doing a lot of like messing around with this with the same username. And so I probably want to go and clear out whatever is on this page now. So if I now switch back to the challenge, and I'll zoom in a little bit here. If I refresh the page, I've got all these different test people. I'm going to hit this reset button, refresh the page, and then I am going to run my exploit off screen. If I refresh it here, I now have this new test person who's listed under admins. And if I click on them, I've got my flag. So we basically just abused the sanitization happening before the parsing. Ideally, what should be happening here is that there's 2 levels of sanitization. There's the sanitization before it gets parsed, and then also if this shouldn't be used to register new admins, this logic is a little bit wonky about why is it that the role is being set on the front end. That's another vulnerability. Don't set the role on the front end, set the role on the back end. You want to do that other additional check after the parsing. So that's how you solve that. And people in the chat are asking for the link to the Wikipedia page. So I'm posting that in right now.
Great.
So I thought that was an interesting challenge. I think a lot of people were getting stuck on just trying to find where the vulnerability was. And so that it does take a lot of experience. This was the hardest challenge in web. Having really good reconnaissance skills is what was necessary for this challenge, because I think just figuring out that the exploit involved XML was probably the hardest part of the challenge. I think once you figured out that was your entry point, trying to find the exploit was a lot easier. But try to trigger errors, right? Try to trigger errors, try to learn from the errors, try to get different errors to try to figure out what is the behavior of the server here. So
that was amazing.
Yeah. Thanks.
Jonathan, your question about would this challenge require past CTF experience? I mean, this is a hard level challenge, so it's pretty, and some of the challenges that we build at the hard tier can be like a kind of a stretch for a lot of folks, and especially because this competition is geared towards students. I mean, but some of you guys, some of you folks are like 4th year students, and you're pretty well advanced. And if you have a strong background in web development, that would be like a good prerequisite for this one. It was super interesting to watch. Looks like we have just a little bit of time left. So I was thinking, let me see if I can share my screen again. I just kind of want to go back, and I know a lot of the folks here that are kind of new to CTFs or new to the cyber world. Yeah, that one's pretty tough. I'm going to go through one of the easier challenges here that I built. This one's called Vuln Recon. It's a scanning and reconnaissance. It's technically a medium level challenge, but depending on what your experience is with Nmap, it can be pretty simple. So if you look here at the challenge, we're basically going to scan a target, enumerate the services, find the CVE. So your basic pen testing framework, right? We're gonna scan, we're gonna enumerate, and then we're gonna look for vulnerabilities to exploit. Though this challenge doesn't require you to actually run the exploit, just identify the CVE associated with that. And we are given our host name, we were given a Kali box here, and then our target is just simply called target. So if you look here at the questions, this is something that I built because I wanted people who are kind of newer to this to, have a challenge that's accessible and also reinforces normal practices. So what's the common port that's open, what service is running. So if I go here, I can just ping target and I can see that it's there, right? Now, if I want to just run a basic Nmap scan on target, I can do that. There are definitely better ways to craft your initial Nmap scan, but this is just super basic. So we see that port 80 is open, the service is HTTP. So that pretty much gets you your first 2 flags right off the bat. And then now we're looking at what service. There are HTTP enum scripts that you can run, but really all you have to run is just SV, which just gives you the version information for the services that it detects. It's a pretty standard first Nmap scan. So it's going to take just a second here. Okay, so you can see we're running Apache HTTPD 2.4.49. So that gets you the third flag here. The final one is which CVE is associated with that. So if you just search here, you can see everything that's coming up are the vulnerability that we're looking for. So it's CVE 2021-41773. So Apache path traversal remote code execution. You don't really have to run this exploit to solve this challenge, but just identify the CVE. So just a good, solid, medium level challenge there. Would we be running the vuln script with nmap and get the CVE? Yeah, you could. There's multiple ways to enumerate what's going on here. All right, Franz, I think that's pretty much what I have to share tonight. Is there anything else you want to share or discuss before we call it a night? And I just want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the stream and everyone who participated in the NCL. The team on the back end, we're really passionate about what we do, and we work really hard to build fun challenges that will have a lot of value as a learning experience and ways to validate your skills and give you just a fun experience. And it's a labor of love, and we work really hard. So we appreciate you all, participating and supporting us. And yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to end with there, Franz, if you have anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll reiterate everything you said there. Hope you all kind of learn something from the experience. That's kind of the main thing that we want from everyone, is to hopefully you come out of this having learned something new, you developed a new skill. Because regardless of your rank, if you're able to learn something new from this experience, then you've won, because that's the whole point of all of this. I am seeing a lot of people in the chat asking for the Forensics Hard Challenge. With the amount of time that we have left, I think that is going to be a little bit tricky, but I can give the abridged version without actually walking through everything. The abridged version is, if you use a tool like volatility, that will help you kind of go through that memory dump and analyze it that way. The canonical solution that we had is to run the volatility program from the command line, dump all of that to a folder, and then you're going to be basically potentially running strings to look for some breadcrumbs to see what's going on there. Because there's a keylogger on there, you can actually see the key presses that were kind of being typed in, and then you'd have to convert those decimal values to ASCII to actually see the contents of what they typed. So that's the abridged version. Of course, I am by no means I'm an expert in volatility, and we got 10 minutes left. So I would highly recommend, if you want more details on how to do it, you should go to the Discord and check out what people are saying in the debrief area there for more specific details, because I just provide the abridged version of just use volatility, dump it out, trying to look through the keylogger process and run strings on there to hopefully help you find kind of bits and pieces to get you in the right direction. But this is not a quick and easy challenge to do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there were a few requested in the survey that were so complicated that it would have taken the entire stream. And I personally, as a former community college instructor, I'm really big on fundamentals, and I covered some basic challenges here just because I want to help empower the newer students and the people who are brand new. And there's a lot of really good questions in the chat about how to get started. And I remember the first time I did a CTF, and I had a very hard time, and it was everything seemed brand new, and everything seemed so frustrating. And you just do what you can, and then after the CTF is over, go into our Discord and look at some of the methodologies, learn what other people have done, search for other CTF write-ups, go to CTF time and participate in another CTF. Check out Pico. They have a gym that's available all the time to practice CTF challenges. So there's a lot of resources out there available. If you want to learn, you can always reach out to any of us. Join our Discord. It's a really awesome community. And yeah, just don't give up. And even if your first time wasn't the best that you wanted to do, just the next time you do it, you'll be even better. And it took me a few times before I started feeling really comfortable. And there still are domains and areas that I'm not really strong at. And that's how everyone is. Like, not everyone is a strong programmer or developer. So, something like reverse engineering or pwn challenges are going to be more difficult, but you'll find which area you're good at. And I love CTFs that have a team element like National Cyber League, because then you can join with other people who have complementary skill sets, and I don't have to worry about doing hard, development challenges. I can focus on what I'm good at. And that's some of my advice. All right.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want to thank everyone again for tuning in, and hopefully you had some fun while learning about how we did some of these challenges. And yeah, thanks for helping me out, Franz, and shout out to the rest of the team who are in the chat and, behind the scenes making all this happen. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Yeah. And I'll do a quick reminder for the other events that we have coming up this week for Spirit Week. So tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, we got a presentation on the role of soft skills, communication, teamwork, and leadership in cybersecurity. And on Thursday, we're going to have our game creator chat, where it's less about doing a walkthrough and more kind of like talking through some of the behind the scenes of how we might have created it, and also connecting it to how does some of this relate to the real world. So we have Dylan Watson from CrowdStrike joining us on Thursday, 7 p.m. For that chat. And then on Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, we have our big reveal at the NCL award ceremony. We're going to reveal the top 5 teams from the team game. So those will not be available until Friday. And I'm sure all the schools who were in there and they cannot see their score are very eager to find out where they landed. So that'll be on Friday. So thank you everyone so much for joining. I really hope you enjoyed the season, and hope we'll catch you in another event this week. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.